Hi everybody, and welcome back to another tech webinar. I'm Jeremy Stifler, an educational technology specialist here at Tech, and I'm going to walk you through the very exciting Smart Notebook 11. It's about to be launched, and I'm going to give you a few sneak tips and tricks and things like that that you're going to be able to do with the new software. It's very, very cool stuff. So before we get started, I want you to look over here to the right-hand side of my screen, and you'll see our chat box. So don't be afraid to get into that chat box and start asking questions. My colleagues will be there to help you out. Also, this is a live webinar, but it's going to be archived. So make sure you check out teq.com/video for all of our archived webinars, including this one. All right, so without further ado, let's just jump right into the notebook software. So here we go. So here in the notebook software, we have a new toolbar. So up across the top, you'll notice several similar familiar tools that you may be used to. So the select tool, which is one that we use over and over again, our shapes and things like that. Over on the left-hand side, we have a few similar icons that you might be used to, like the table icon or screen shade. There's a couple of new ones, though, that I want to point out. One of these is View Screens. If I click on View Screens, let me just zoom out here a little bit, you'll see that I have a full screen, transparent background, or dual page display that I can use. And as I look down here, I also have entire page and page width as well. So we have our screens immediately available here, which is different than what we had before. We also have a very cool tool called the web browser, internet browser. Now this tool across the top here allows us to use the internet directly inside of the notebook software itself. So a lot of fun, very, very cool. We're going to get to that later on. All right, so that's a few of the new tool features, but I want to specifically talk about these tools over here on the left-hand side of the screen. Now we have our pen tools. You probably noticed that it has multiple pens inside of this icon. Well, if I click on that pen tool, it'll open up a window to the left. I'm sorry, to the right. I don't know my left from right. To the right over here. So I have my pen type, so I can click on it and I can see all of the different types of pens that are available to me. Also, I have several different colors. Now, one of the coolest features of using this new type of pen is that I can choose a color. So for example, just a simple green pen, but I can also change the color. Over here, I have the color option. So when I click on it, I can change it to an orange pen. All right, now that it's an orange pen, I can even look further over to the right and change the line style. So maybe I want this to be a much thicker pen, or maybe I want it to be a dashed pen. I can choose the type of pen that I want it to be. And over here at the very end, I can also make it transparent, like a highlighter or any other type of transparent object. So now that I've changed the color of the pen, I can simply write across the page, and there's my orange pen. All right, so it's a lot easier to manipulate pens. It's a lot easier to go back and forth to pens. You can do this in a lot of really cool, really interesting ways. So the toolbar is brand new, still has a lot of the old components to it, but it also has a lot of brand new components to it as well. So let's go back to the software, and I want to show you one of my favorite features called grouping and the new way you can group objects. So let's do that now. All right, so back in the software, I'm going to go back to my select tool, this little black arrow here. Now, it's always important to go back to the select tool whenever you're choosing a pen. Because when you go back to the select tool, it stops you from writing all over the screen and it lets you select things. That's really important. We have a phrase in our company that says, once a tool, always a tool, until you go back to the arrow. And as a former music teacher, I have a little song, but I'm not going to sing it for us at this point, even if you force me to. All right, so now that we're here in our file, Health and Nutrition, in the center here it asks what I like to eat. So this is an activity for students to come up to the smartboard, to use this little icon. I've cloned this multiple times using Infinite Cloner. So I'm going to simply drag a piece off of here, and the students are going to simply pick up a pen off of the pen tray on the smartboard, choosing a color. They'll be able to write down their favorite food. So I know what my favorite food would be if I were in elementary school. I've matured now, so I don't eat pizza as much as I used to. Actually, my stomach has matured. All right, so here's pizza. Here's the shape inside of it. I'm always going to go back to that select tool. So don't forget, you always have to go back to this tool. So I'm going to click on the select tool. Now I want you to notice that pizza, whoops, I'm still that little red pen, so let me get rid of that really quickly, undo it. All right, so now that I am back at the select tool, pizza and that shape are two separate objects, and that's not what we want to do. We want to keep them the same object. So I'm going to use my finger, I'm going to drag across the board at an angle, and I'm going to select both of the objects at the same time. And you can tell they're both selected because one has a little green, two little green dots across the top, and you can see there's two little blue boxes around the inside part here. So now all I have to do to group these is simply use my finger to press and to shake on it. And as soon as I shake on it, you'll notice it's now one object, and I can move this anywhere I want to. All right, so I can grab another shape off of the page, go up and pick up a pen, maybe a blue pen this time, and you know, my little health-conscious student comes up and writes, I like salad, right? So we go back to the select tool, we select both of these objects at the same time using my finger, and then I simply shake it, and it turns it into one object. All right, so that's a really cool feature of using the new notebook software, and one feature that I really suggest using with students because it allows you to group objects together, something that you were not really able to do before. So really cool stuff. So let's go back into the notebook software and we'll take a look at how you can add sound very quickly and very easily. Let's look at it now. So now that we're back in the notebook software, we have my storybook. In my storybook, we have a little picture that I put on here of Goldilocks, and it says, once upon a time, there was a little girl named Goldilocks. So I'm going to use my mouse here, and I'm simply going to press on top of it and listen to it.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Goldilocks. She went for a walk in the forest.
Okay, good. So I actually read that directly into the text, and I'm going to show you how you can do that as well. So on the second page of my story, I have pretty soon she came upon a house. She knocked, and when no one answered, she walked right in. All right, so I need to record that directly into this. Now before, you had to do all this complicated stuff of recording it and converting it and throwing it in there and all this stuff. It's really, really easy now. I can do this with not only text, but images as well. All right, so here's my text. I've selected it, and I have the little drop-down box in the upper right-hand corner. When I click on that drop-down box, all I have to do is zoom down to the bottom where it says sound. So I'm going to click on the option that says sound. When I do, a little window is going to appear, and in that window I have the ability to record instantly into this particular object. So I'm going to maybe make this recording name page 2. All right, I'm going to select that this is a recording that I want to use. And over here on the right-hand side of the screen, it says Start Recording. So as soon as I click on this, I'm going to be able to talk directly into it. All right, so I want to make sure that if I'm going to record it, I know what I'll be speaking. So I'll click that Start Recording button and read the text. Here I go. Pretty soon, she came upon a house. She knocked, and when no one answered, she walked right in. All right, so I just did a little 8-second recording clip right there. Now at the bottom, I'm going to click on Object because I want the entire thing to be able to be clickable, and I'm going to choose Attach Recording. All right, so now what I've done is attached my own voice directly into this text. So let's play it and see what it sounds like.
Pretty soon, she came upon a house. She knocked, and when no one answered, she walked right in.
All right, pretty cool, right? And we can do this with anything. Here's little Goldilocks over here, and maybe I can make her say hello. So again, go to that drop-down box in the upper right-hand corner. Scroll all the way down until you see sound. Click on sound. Okay, my little box appears, and I'll just call this one hello. All right, over here on the side it says Start Recording, and I'm just going to say hello, anybody home? All right, here I go. Start recording, wait for that timer to start. Hello, is anybody home? And I'll stop the recording, go down here, choose Object, and then attach the recording. So I just attached myself saying something directly into this. Now, you can imagine already what you can do with students. Have students record their own voices into a story. And that way, every time we go to this page, they can click on it and they can hear this.
Hello, is anybody home?
Right? And that could be your student's voice. So really cool, right? Really easy and really simple to do. So that's adding sound to anything that you have on your smartboard. So we're going to go to one other activity that you can use this for. Here's an activity that I created called Find the Verbs. And so we have to find the different verbs. And if I click on something that's not a verb, it's going to, in this case, disappear. If I click on something that is a verb, such as the word jumping, and select it, it's going to zoom in and zoom back out again. Now I want to incorporate some audio into this. I want students to be able to hear which one is correct. So I'm going to click on jumping. Again, I'm going to select it, the drop-down box, and go to sound, like I've done a couple times already. Once I choose sound, I'm just going to say the word jumping. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start the recording like I did before. Jumping. Way to go. All right, so I just put a little positive affirmation there for the students, a little positive reinforcement. I'm going to go to Object again and then attach the recording. So now when the students are coming up to the board to find the verb, they're going to click on the word jumping, and when they do,
Jumping. Way to go.
and they get that positive affirmation, right? So if we do this with something like car, which of course car is not a verb, right? I'm going to go down to sound. I'm going to call it car. I'm going to start the recording. Oh, car is not a verb. Try another one. All right, I stop my recording, choose the object, and attach that recording. And now here I go. They're going to come over here. They're going to click on car because maybe they think that's a verb, and
Oh, car is not a verb. Try another one.
all right, and it disappears, removing that as an option. All right, so a very cool feature, very cool tool that you can use, adding sound to anything. All right, so you can use this in multiple ways. And I showed a bunch of elementary lessons that you can use this with. However, high school, you can do the exact same thing. You can attach a specific molecule that needs to go into whatever it needs to go into. You can specifically describe that molecule as a student clicks on it and drags it into the entire formation they have to create, or a periodic table of elements, or a person from history, the path that they took. You can have them walk through it, saying, all right, first they went to this state, through this city, now they went through this city, and walk the student through the path using your own voice recorded directly into the smartboard. All right, pretty cool stuff. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is actually very cool, one of the coolest features of the new Notebook 11 software. So let's go into the Notebook software right now. All right, so we are going to do a sorting activity that we are going to be able to create ourselves directly into the Notebook software. So I don't know if you've noticed this, but one of the tabs that's been added onto our little side tabs over here is one that looks like a puzzle piece. These are our modules. Modules are actually very cool little add-ons that you can use with your Notebook software, and this is something that can be built in. So it's a lot like applications or apps that you can use on an iPad. There's so many different applications and add-ons and activities that you can use with the Notebook software, and it will continue to build more and more. So let me show you how this works. This is the one that comes with the Notebook software called Activity Builder. I'm going to select the globe on the right-hand side of the screen. That's the first step. Once the globe is selected, I'm going to go over here to the Activity Builder and I'm going to click on it. All right, once I do, you'll notice it says the selected object. Do you want to make this object an activity object? And it's selected that globe. I'm going to click Edit because I do want to make this an activity object. Once I click on Edit, you'll notice little gray bars, little bars pop up across the side of the object all over it. And on the left-hand side, I see that I have the option of accepting objects, or down here, rejecting objects. All right, so here's what I want to be able to do. I want anything that is a continent to be accepted into this particular object. Anything that is not a continent, such as a country, is going to be rejected. So here's how it works. The easiest way to do this is to go down to the Accept These Objects option and choose Add All Remaining. All right, so when I do that, every single piece of text from here is going to be added directly in here. Now that means that I have to actually go in and get rid of some things. So for example, Canada, last time I checked, is not a continent. So I'm going to go ahead and drag it into the trash can and remove it. Mexico is not a continent, so I'll remove that. Russia as well. Okay, and it looks like Australia is not a continent. India is not a continent. And the South Pole, unfortunately, is not a continent. So we have North America and we have Asia in there. All right? Now, these are going to be accepted, and I see there's little green check marks next to them over here as well. Now, what I can do is reject all of the others if I wanted to. So I'm going to add all of the remaining that have not been selected. So down here at the bottom it says Add All Remaining. I'm going to click on it, and you'll see all of the countries come up here that have not been selected, and the continents do not get added into the rejected. So that means in this object, North America and Asia will be accepted, and everything else is going to be rejected. So this is the sorting activity that we're creating here. Now it goes one step further. Across the top of our sorting activity builder, we have objects that we're currently working with, and we have settings. If I click on settings, I can choose what will happen when things are accepted or rejected. If they're accepted, I can have them fade out, I can have them fly out, I can have them snap to the center, I can have them spin. I'm just going to have them fade out. If it's correct, it fades away. Okay, so I'm going to choose fade out. Also, what I'm going to do is go down to bounce back or rejected. I'm going to have it bounce back if it's rejected. In this case, I could have it bounce back if I wanted to. Or I could choose none, nothing happens at all. In this case, I'm going to have it bounce back. All right, when I click on the Done option, you'll see the activity goes back to normal. And now what I'm going to be able to do is take the maybe Canada, which is not a continent. I'm going to drag it onto the activity, and when I let go, it bounces it right back to where I picked it up from. Australia bounces it right back. If I choose North America, I place it on top, and it's going to fade away, meaning that it's correct. Asia, same thing. Fade away, meaning it's correct. All right, so that's using the activity builder, and I've created a couple of other activities that we can use as well here, which I really like. First of all, I'm going to go to the next slide, and I'll see that I have even numbers and odd numbers. So here are some simple numbers: 12 minus 5, 2 plus 6. I basically did this for me because I'm really bad at math. So what I have here is 12 minus 5. Is that going to be an even number or an odd number? Well, I can already tell you that a positive or an even and an odd make an odd. So this is going to be an odd number. So that's going to have to go over here to the odd object. So let's do the activity builder all over again. I'm going to select the shape over here that I've placed as odd. I'm going to go over to my little puzzle piece over here on the left-hand side. It says selected object. I'm going to make this an activity object. Okay, and I'm going to add all the remaining in here. Now notice it took an image in here as well, so I'm definitely going to remove the image, but I want to make sure that all of these are odd. That is an odd one. 2 plus 6 is not odd, so I'll remove that one from off the page. 3 times 4 is also not odd, and 10 minus 7 is 3, which is odd. Okay, and I'm going to reject all the remaining. So down here, the other 2 objects are going to be rejected, and I'll get rid of that little image on here as well. All right, once I'm done, I can choose the setting for it, and I can click Done. Okay, so now I do this for even as well, but if I try to drag something that is odd on here, it is going to fade away like it did before, and if I try to drag something that is even on here, it's going to pop it right back. Now if I take this over to even, it's going to fade it away once I set this activity as well. It'll fade it away, and that way you can get rid of everything off the page, sorting between even and sorting between odd. Now there's one other feature that I really want to show you here. Now let's say I took 10 minus 7 and I added sound to it like we did before. So remember, we go to the drop down box, we choose sound, that little sound pops up. I'm going to start a recording. All right, that's an odd number. Way to go. Okay, I'll stop that recording. And what I can do is attach that recording to the object just like I did before. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. If I go back to odd and I click on it, and then I go back to my activity builder, I can actually edit where that activity builder was creating some stuff, right? When I go up to settings, all right, so just to make sure, I'm sorry you're getting a little dizzy here, but now we're editing that odd setting again. I go up to settings. Inside of settings, if the animation is accepted, I can also play the object's sound. All right, so what that means is, when I click the done button at the bottom here, if I'm going to take the number 10 minus 7, which has a sound attached to it, I can drop it in, it'll fade away, and...
All right, that's an odd number. Way to go.
Okay, so that's how you can put all that stuff together. Pretty cool how this works, right? Okay, so that's using the activity builder to add sound as well. So we're building all on top of this. Now, for the high school teachers out there who might want to see a high school example, here's how you can use the activity builder in a much more advanced way. So here I have pieces of a heart that I have actually taken apart. I have up here the right atrium and right ventricle below it, and I need to create a left atrium, and I have right here the left ventricle. So I'm going to go up to the top where I see that little capture tool, click on the capture tool. All right, it gives me this little cookie cutter thing, right? I'm going to choose the capture tool on the right hand side of the screen, the little camera, and it allows me to take a picture of the left atrium here. Okay, it takes a snapshot for me. I hear that snapshot sound. I can get rid of the camera. And now I have all the pieces together. So what I have to do here is actually very simple. I'm going to select each of these individual pieces one at a time. Again, go over to my little tab that looks like a puzzle piece. Okay, I'm going to edit this object, and I'm going to reject everything this time. All right, so I'm rejecting all of the pieces in here except for the correct answer, which is left atrium, which is very hard to see, but it's right here. Okay, I go up to the top and I add the remaining object. All right, so I have basically set this one object to accept only one response and reject everything else, even images. I'll just leave it like this because it's easiest. All right, and I'm going to do this for every one of them. I'm going to click on the left ventricle. I'm going to edit that object. I'm going to add all the remaining, and then I'm going to look really carefully in here for the left ventricle, which is down here. Drag that to the trash can, and then add all the remaining. So left ventricle has that little check mark next to it. Okay? I'm going to click done, and then I'm going to take these pieces, and I'm going to place them right back into the little heart area as we'd seen before. Okay, and get it just as close as I can. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just close enough. All right, so now that I have the left atrium and the left ventricle, I just want to do something real quick, make sure that these are brought to the front. Okay, so I'm going to be able to take left atrium. If I drag it up here to the ventricle and let go, it's going to pop it back out. But if I take it all the way to the top, left atrium, I drop it in, and it fades away, telling me that it's correct. I'll do the same thing with the left ventricle. Drop it into the correct area, and when I do, it fades it away. All right, so really cool activity, really cool features. This is some of the coolest stuff that you can do with your smart notebook software. You can add your own activities, create a multitude of activities, all kinds of absolutely amazing stuff. So what I'm going to do is wrap it up by showing you the web browser and what you can do with the web browser. Really fun, really simple. So let's go back to the computer and take a look at the web browser. All right, so here we are inside of a little file that I put together. We're going to use time4kids.com. And over here on the right-hand side, I have a scroll. This is where we're going to collect all of our information. So I mentioned it at the very beginning of this session that we have a specific little toolbar. Let me back out and zoom back into this so you can see it. On the toolbar, we have something called Internet Browser. All right, when I click on this tool, a web page inside of the notebook software is going to pop up, and it automatically gives me a couple of options down here at the bottom that I can choose from. One is called Pin the Page, or go back to pinned page. So if I have a website that I constantly want to go back to all the time, like I don't know, Google or Edmodo or maybe tech.com or something like that, I can choose to select this pin to always go back to that particular website. So let's go to time4kids.com. All right, so I just use it like a regular browser. I have my little browser down here at the bottom. And here we are at Time4Kids. I can scroll around. I can look for stuff. I can choose maybe view a destination for Afghanistan or whatever it is that I want to use this for to do some research. Now, the cool thing about this web browser is let me just click on the border up here at the top. When I select the border, we get that little blue box that pops up around it. I'm just going to shrink it down a little bit, make it a little bit smaller, and just move it over so it's next to the scroll. The cool thing about this web browser is that I can highlight text, then I can take it and drag it off of the page and put it in my little scroll. So here I can actually do some research on the population of Afghanistan and simply create this little scroll bar that tells me everything I need to know. All right, you can do the same thing with images. So if I scrolled up a little bit higher, I see a whole bunch of images. I click on it and grab it, drop it right in, and there's a picture of something in Afghanistan that I could take a look at later on. So this is the web browser. You can do anything with the web browser. Now, I mentioned a couple of these little buttons down here at the bottom and what they could do. So maybe I want to always go back to google.com, right? So I'm going to type in google.com at the bottom here. It'll take me to Google. Now I can click on this little bar that has a little green arrow, this little push pin with a little green arrow. When I click on that, it means that it's always going to go back to the page where that push pin was originally set. So right now, if I clicked on the push pin, it would set this particular page. If I go back to Google, let me try it one more time, google.com, click on this push pin, and now it'll always go back to this particular Google page. So if I go back to timeforkids.com, all right, it takes me back to the website. I look on anything I want to look on. I bring over content. I copy and paste, whatever I like to do. I want to go back to Google to do another search. Down here at the bottom, I click on that little back button right there. When I click on it, it automatically takes me back to the page that I had originally set as my push pin page, which in this case is Google. Pretty cool, right? All right, one last feature, which I love. If you have the web browser open, it'll automatically take you back to the page that you were last looking at. So for those of you who love to use the internet, I could set up an activity, and it would always take me back to that specific activity. So here I'm currently looking at Earth Day 2012. Let me just scroll over so I can see everything. Oh, too far. Earth Day 2012. I highlight the text for Earth Day 2012 and grab it and drag it over. Let me try that one more time because it's acting crazy. All right, highlight it, drag it over. So now we're going to be talking about Earth Day 2012. And as I scroll down, I can collect content, and I can show a picture of this person who's using, setting up a plant and planting a tree. All right, so all kinds of cool stuff you can do here. Now, one last piece that I want to show you is, of course, tech.com. So teq.com/video. This is where you can access all of our archives. So please feel free to check out this particular page, which needs www.teq.com/video. Okay, and this will load up the page for us here in just a second. All right, so there it goes. All right, and here we have all of our webinars archived and set up for you guys to use. All right, so that is everything that the Smart Notebook 11 software has to hold. Now, I covered a lot of stuff here, but there was a lot that I also left out. We're going to be doing a couple of other sessions using the Smart Notebook 11 software and showing you a few other key features and ways that you can create engaging lessons for your students. But until then, thank you all for showing up for this webinar. I love seeing so many people sign up for these kinds of things. It's awesome. Don't forget, directly below me, you have the ability to sign up for all of our other webinars coming up and all the other events that we are currently holding here at Tech. If you have any questions, always feel free to email me, training@teq.com. And as always, our feedback form is the big blue button directly below this window that says Provide Feedback. All right, without further ado, I thank you so very much for taking time. Take care and have a wonderful week.